Yeah, she, yeah.
Now, see, a different person owns that one. The post office.
They told they get 3 minutes.
I can't remember.
And no questions from this basically just 3 minutes of review, sit down. So I brought my thing, I was teasing Dee, because when he did, I was teasing him because 2 years ago when I did it, he went 9 minutes. I said, listen, brother, when you see me doing this, you go,
Should I say that?
you have 3 minutes.
Yeah, should I say, there's no council, no council questions?
Yeah, no council questions. And do their thing.
If you have questions, go see them first.
See them after, yeah.
Okay, you ready?
Yeah, are we ready?
Cambridge Council will now be in session. Would you please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Evancho.
Here.
Hill.
Here.
Laufman.
Here.
Leonard.
Here.
McMillan.
Here.
Wolverton.
Here.
Zaleski.
Here.
Reading the minutes. Mr. Leonard,
Make a motion, we dispense the reading of the minutes and place on file.
Mr. Wolverton.
I'll second that motion.
All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Opposed, same sign. That motion is granted. Mayor's report. This may take a minute.
Good afternoon, council. Let's do the daily normal stuff and then we'll roll into the crazy stuff. But anyhow, in your request, we have one, and that's a request from the fire department to accept the 2023 Marks grant in the amount of $2,880 and place into miscellaneous.
Okay, that will be referred to the Finance Committee.
I guess this is where we do our year-end reporting for the year 2022. I looked through this room when I came in, and maybe I'm wrong at this, but I think this is the first time since we've had the new building, we've had all the department heads.
No,
No,
you've
one
had
of
him
the-
here before.
Okay, well, tells you how my memory's working. But it just looks better. I don't know what it is. I mean, it's just a nice moment. Of course, most of you know my MO now. We tend to rotate on this, much to the chagrin of most of the people behind me. But we're loaded up for this year, and if I had to start this out before I turn it over to the very first speaker, it's not because I'm standing here and you're all in front of me right now, but without question, I kind of hinted about this a couple weeks ago. I believe in my heart this is probably the strongest, most active, accomplished year in the history of the city. I'm gonna put it out there. 2022 will go down as the amount of projects refereed. Some of them started in 2020. We tippy-toed our way out of COVID. We never missed a beat during COVID very hard. I mean, we were interfered with, don't get me wrong, but we came out focused in 2022, and these people in here did that. And as you read your reports here tonight, I truly appreciate that. It's my hope that the public understands that in this moment in time, because so many times you just get caught up in something and that doesn't matter. Well, it does matter. And I've got all the departments here tonight. They have a couple of them that had to be out, but we've got representations for that. So first up tonight, we have the Parks Department, Tim Gibson.
May I remind the council members that if you have questions, please wait until after the meeting and you can go to the department heads on your own.
Good evening, everybody.
Evening.
Hey, Tim.
First of all, I'd like to first say my first year at the helm and learning the ins and outs of this. I feel blessed that most things were better than bad at the city park this year. Parks Department is moving in the right positive direction, even though our wish list is always growing. But we're continuously working with to shorten that list, dealing with unexpected problems that the routine daily brings up. Our small crew does an amazing job throughout the park and getting back to full strength soon, hopefully. A huge thanks goes out to them for always keeping the park clean, safe environment to relax and play. So with that being said, this is what's happening, and this is what's going on through the park. Cambridge Parks and City Schools agreed to switch this year the hands of McFarland Stadium back to the schools, with the parks getting the old bus garage in Pine Field coming in probably March. Schools was wanting to put in the new turf and everything, which happened, and they refurbished the home side bleachers. Also, the park and the schools worked together to secure a loan for two major projects through the park. Musco lighting for the girls softball and the revitalization of the tennis courts, which will take place this fall. Another project that the schools and the parks went was the new batting cage that was put in at Don Cost Stadium, along with a lot of concrete that helped that make it a better for the new baseball stadium and everything. The park also purchased safety service mulch for all the playground areas for all the parks, not only the main park, but Jefferson Park and Gomber. The park also this year, when I came in, was a process with me with the changing of the fireworks company. This year we went with Pyrotechnico and their managers, Chris Mile, equipment manager Daniel Ward, and shooter Tasha Ringer. We thought done a fantastic job this year, and we're looking forward to working with them again this year. Also, the park done a lot of upgrades at the pool, including new pump strainer baskets purchased from Patterson Pool and new pool grates that have slowly deteriorated over these years. Also, the park just purchased, and we just got those in, the fastenal lenses at the basketball courts were deteriorated, broke, weathered, and tattered pretty well. Actually, we had a complaint last year from the baseball diamond, wanted to know if we put in new lights because it was so bright, shining straight into the batter's box. So those will be put up here in the spring. New concrete pads were poured for some of the storage buildings throughout the park. And then the park also was working with Sue Cowden from the Beautification and Tree Commission. They put in a new handicap sidewalk at the park from Pavilion 3, and then they are putting in, they put in 3 new cement pads, which are memorial pads for permanent spots in the cemetery, or not the cemetery, but for the park, hoping that that takes off and people will see that and we can get more put out through the park. Also, the park sold the old bleachers that came from McFarland Stadium on the visitor side. They're late in September. Those were sold to Chuck Holder, who is putting a rodeo in down at the old bowling alley. So good things there. Also, the park new roof project just started here in December. We got it up before all the bad weather got here, and everything looks good. No leaks in the armory that we know of, and hoping that it holds throughout. That roof was 25 years old. Park made a few end of the year purchases, finding a new zero-turn mower for Mr. Matthews and his crew, purchasing top dressing for the fields for this spring, which haven't been done for a few years. School was asking for that. We got that in, and the park actually had the breakfast with Santa this past December, which went really well after 2 years of not having it from COVID. So good things coming through the park. We're moving in the right direction. We'd like to, without the generous donations of the community businesses and the hard work of the employee and staff, moving forward, we have a new company to service our boiler at the Armory, John Smithberger, who's worked for the city before. He is letting us know, and we're kind of babysitting that boiler now, but probably in the spring we're going to replace that. So good things are coming, and still looking for some new ideas coming into the park. So I'm hoping that it's all good. Finally, I'd just like to offer a sincere thanks to the city administration, and especially our mayor, who is always strongest supporter in our drive to keep the community going in the right direction. Thank you.
Yeah, and Tim just joined us here last year. Big shoes to fill, and he hit the ground running. I think he's done really well with it. So got through Boomer Army. You knew if you could survive that with me, good things were ahead from there. Public Service Street, that would be Tom Lanning.
Thank you.
The mayor talked about all the accomplishments and everything that's, as strong as we've been going for the last year, it has been fast. Everything just, there must be some other departments. He's always asking me, what about this? What about this? What about this? So we're apparently not hit that yet. 2022, we were able to hire 2 new employees to get us back to full staff. Picked up Dan Sestina, who has a concrete background, experience with vac truck and pipe work. Anthony Colvin, who had been a 4-year summer worker for us, running the mowing crew. Street sweeping in 2022, 239 and a half man hours, 342 cubic yards of debris picked up. Before the leaf pickup, we're required by the EPA now to do that yearly. Fuel cost in 2022 is now $62,682.56, up over $20,000 from the previous year. That's going to hit everybody's budget that runs a lot of vehicles and runs hard. Asphalt materials, we used about 15,000 more. It's a product of petroleum. The cost for that went up this year. Salt, because of the last couple of years, that price has went down a little bit with fuel the way it is. The biggest drive of it is getting it delivered here. Spring cleanup, 90 regular hours, 48 overtime hours. Pickup sticks and leaf pickup. We put over 2,000 cubic yards in the compost facility this year. Spent right at 29,000 pushing that back, which is down about 10 grand from previous years. If any of you have used our compost facility, the reason it's down, we can't push it any farther. It's one big pile down there. We keep it off the roads, still try and push what we can. We're gonna have issues going forward with that. It was a great project when we brought it up. It has been used by a lot of people in town. They rely on it now, and now we're just to the point of, without the chief being there, fire chief, a big fire would help us right now. There are ways through the EPA. We're just looking into that right now. I want to do it legal. You're close enough with some of your fireworks. We could get lucky one year. 22 new catch basins were installed in 2022. 4 were rebuilt. 1,161 feet of new pipe were put in the ground this year. 2 catch basins and 60 foot of pipe were cleaned, and over 900 foot of ditch was dug in this year. Street department employees, myself or foremans, in-house, we have a daily meeting with the sewer, or with the street and water foremans, 10 weekly meetings with the mayor and administration, monthly with the tree commission, who will be here tonight to give a report on what's going on there, some great things. Quarterly department head meetings, and then all these other meetings the mayor would like me to attend and be at and give good information to. So that's it for this year.
Thank you, Doctor.
Again, this will tweak your mind. Write these things down. You're welcome to talk to any of these people throughout, ask more questions about anything, because it's going to be hard to do it all tonight and keep it in a timely manner. Next up, we have the cemetery and James Green. Always an interesting report.
This cost me money. I had to buy a new sweater. And Mike helped dress me, so that's pretty good. Didn't do it right. The cemetery department has 3 full-time employees. We work 588 hours of overtime, 117 in interments. 54 of those was cremations, which puts us at 46% of cremations of all interments right now for last year. When I first started, if you had 1 or 2, that was something. 1,109 calls came to the cemetery. 676 people stopped in to get information. 594 emails. The revenue is basically about average, so I'm not going to go through that. The flagpoles that the Veterans Commission donated and helped with the Tommy Lanning's crew, the street department helped with the concrete. I think I give you guys a picture. Turned out really nice. And then Mike St. Clair from the Veterans Commission was out there one day, and I told him, I said, it'd be nice if we could put, 6 flagpoles. Actually, I said 5. There was a 6th branch at the time, but 6 flagpoles, and so they did it. And it looks good. We laid out 2 new sections. We're going to do the 3rd one later this summer. It'll be about 450 new lots. We put a road in about 440 feet to connect all 3 sections. 4 new tractors, traded in 3, bought 4 new tractors. Webb Painting came in and painted the old mausoleum ceiling, and then the mausoleum and the chapel, and the mausoleum, the new one. Planted 2 new trees, working on a computer system, some software, and Alex from the courts is helping us with that. Probably be back up here in a few weeks with some new prices, increase in lots and open closing costs. And then I'd just like to thank everybody that helps us. We call, they come to, come help us. Sue Ellen, I'd just like to thank Sue Ellen for everything she's done for us this past year. That's all I have. Save some time.
Thanks, James.
That's brief, that's a brief, but it never stops out there. 3 years ago, we have these up and down moments. Money was a little tight and crazy, and we did some crazy cutting. And I ended up on the tractor out there for about a week. I learned real quick, we're gonna have to work that budget a little harder. Because that's pretty intense, pretty crazy, and pretty accurate out there. 2 things I wanted to highlight. I have to kid you a little bit, James. You only planted 2 new trees. We're gonna do better than that. And then the flags and the veterans, when that was in East Cambridge for a long time, it was struggling a little bit, and that was a group effort with all the above. And it's just beautiful out there. I think I mentioned that to you a couple of days ago, but that's great. Okay, next up on our chart here is engineering, and I have Nick Cunningham.
Good evening. Engineering department had another pretty busy year. On the capital improvement project list, unfortunately, Clark Street's still there at the top. I think there is some light in the tunnel with that project. Hopefully this year we get that wrapped up. Steubenville Avenue reconstruction project, we are pretty much completed with that. There's a few punch list items remaining, and then that project will be completed. I think it was a pretty good success. 4022, of course, that was paved with ODOT. Probably saw me out there quite a bit trying to get that finalized. They still have some work, so you'll see them out here on Wheeling Avenue, hopefully starting next week or so, basically weather permitting, and then they'll be back to stripe it in the spring when the temperature allows. Dewey Avenue Storm Sewer Project, that project is moving forward, putting in a 60-inch storm sewer there, 60-inch sanitary, and also a 10-inch sanitary. Probably see it struggling a little bit, but we are babysitting them and hopeful that project's going to move forward as planned. 2022 and 2023 continuous street projects, both those we plan on doing this year. I think I've already went over the list with you guys several times on those, so we are in the planning phase for those right now. Have the draft of 2022 on my desk right now, and we're planning to bid that next month and then the following month of 2023. The lead service line replacement project, that's still ongoing. Zimba's working on that project. That is a principal forgiveness project as well. Next one is the Woodlawn Waterline project. That is complete. You may see a hole down there. We did have a saddle that busted, but that'll be replaced actually Wednesday, and they should be getting the concrete on there Thursday. So that project will be wrapped up again, and then we'll put some asphalt on it when it warms up. Highland Avenue Waterline project, that's complete. That project was a success. We were able to abandon a booster station associated with that project. Phillips Road Improvement Project, that's completed. And the wastewater treatment plant fan press model, we completed that last year as well. And what's not on the list, we also did a road out at the cemetery. Design projects, the Southgate Bridge, of course, you guys are all aware of that. That's coming down in June or July of this year, but we're active in the background with the planning and design phase reviews. Water Reservoir Improvement Project, that's the raw water line. We did get a grant for that of $250,000. The Ohio Avenue Lift Station, that'll be finalized this year, but most of those plans are done. Claremont Avenue Safer House to School Project, that's Claremont on the north side from 10th Street over to Clark Street, working on that. The McFarland Drive Storm Sewer Upgrades Evaluation, that's complete. In the background, we're working to see how we can get that project funded. It's a pretty big project. And then below, last, I just have some funding that we're able to receive this year through grant applications. So we have the Transportation of Alternative Grant, that's to do some sidewalks on Edgeworth Avenue. We have the SKIP grant, that's for the Continuous Street Program, and then the Safer Routes to School project that I just mentioned on Claremont. And then for staff, I have Michael Wall and Doug Thornton. Thank you.
Thanks, Dave.
I tell the story often, but when you have the projects that we have done, that gentleman and the crew that he just mentioned referee all that. And it, with Tommy in the background and different ones, I mean, it's full-time all the time. And for those that don't know, we moved Mike downstairs temporarily until we get the elevator restructured a little bit. And I want to thank Main Street for helping out there a little bit. That's temporary, but we found it's difficult temporary because they don't make a lot of elevator companies evidently. Next up on the list, we have Debbie McKee in the Utilities Office.
Good evening, everyone. 2022 was once again a busy year for us. I've provided you a detailed report with the statistics for our department. In that report, it included the amount of water and sewer collected in 2022, the average amount of water collected each month, number of residential and industrial accounts that we have, total service calls made by my servicemen, the many payment options that we offer, and water meter and backflow statistics. Just a note for members of council and all water customers, our office is available to discuss and/or meet to review and answer any concerns about your water bills. This includes the process to sign in for water, maintaining your account, or terminating service once you no longer need water. Please call me at my office and either set up a time to come in and talk about it, or I'd be glad to do it over the phone. Last but not least, I would like to recognize my department employees, Randy Black, who has 27 years, Kim Ward, 23 years, Jill Stevens, 16 years, and Chris Tidrick, 1 year. Thank you.
Thank you.
Man, they're getting awful efficient around here. We're buzzing right through this. Okay, environmental, water and sewer, Lou and Tom. I don't know. Which one?
Okay, I'll start off and then we'll bring
This thing
Tom.
morphs into a whole lot of
Tom,
categories.
this goes into a whole bunch of different things. Yes, it does. But essentially, I'll start off first, and then Tom McVicker, and then Chris Jamie will come up after I'm done. First off, I'm going to try and be brief because there's a lot involved with the sewer and the water. Let's start off first off with the budget. We went through rate increases, and we've had our first full year with the new rates, and we've instituted another rate increase based on what the council passed. Right now, water's in about where we would have expected it. They're not in the red, which is a positive thing. And we move forward to try and push the savings that we did have, that we pulled out of until last year, to try and get that back up to where we need it to be so that we can take on projects like Nick was talking about with the raw line. It's going to be a multi-million-dollar project, and we need to try and fund that somehow, and this is one of the ways we're going to do it. The other thing is sewer, on the other hand, is not, we're still in the red. This year's budget, proposed budget, is more than what our revenue is. I anticipated that, and quite frankly, it's going to take all 5 years to get back to where sewer needs to be. It's pretty much what I had expected, and that's just the way it is. There's nothing we can do about it. It is what it is with the sewer budget. Some of the other things that we covered that I'd like to hit highlights on. We experienced some significant changes in our new stormwater permit that we just got. It's really focused towards construction activities, which we obviously don't have a lot of, but we still have to comply. And some of the things that that are significant that maybe are more of a highlight for us is we are GPSing our stormwater and our sanitary systems within the city. It's going to take a long time. It really is. It's going to take years. It's probably going to take the next 3 or 4 years to do this, just because you have to fit it in to when you're not doing something else. The beauty of it is that we will be able to put it onto our existing GIS software, and it goes hand in hand with what Nick needs to do when we have requests for information. Where is the sewer? Where is the water? Where should I tap? What are the depths of these things? What are the conditions of these things? It all gets rolled into one, and this is our first step in trying to get there. The other thing that we've done in stormwater this year is we now have to have O&M agreements that are attached to the properties for long-term care. Some of those examples are Southeast Ohio Regional Med. They just did that upgrade over there at the facility. MVHC just did that big building over there. They're both required to maintain, even if they don't own the facility, it attaches to that property and follows it in perpetuity. Which is significant because now we have to get plots and we have to go through the engineer's office again, and we have to log all this stuff with the county. So it's a whole drawn out process. Something we went through this year, which we have to do every 5 years, is stack testing down at the generators for the water treatment plant. Because of the size and because of some of the things that we want to do, that generator actually, we are paid, the city is paid to run that in an event of like blackouts, to avoid blackouts on the East Coast. We run our generators, we go off grid. They pay us to do that. Once every 5 years, we have to have it tested to make sure that we're complying with the EPA's guidelines. Let's see here. One of the other things we did on sewer, you may recall, we gutted and rebuilt the Big Lots lift station. You may have seen all of the activity down there. There was nothing in there. It was vacated. We had some issues with it. It literally fell apart. We gutted it and redid that lift station, which was a significant undertaking. We did that internally. The guys on the sewer crew did that. We are getting, it seems as though we're getting more and more annexations requests, pre-annexation requests. You're going to see some more. They're coming. I talked to Sharon about them. So be prepared that that's coming down the road. Lastly, many years ago, and I don't know, some of you, Bill probably would know this, Sharon would know this, some of the older ones would know this. Back in 2007, we were, and I should say prior to that, we were under consent orders for our wastewater operations through the US EPA and Department of Justice. In 2007, Paul Sherry sent a letter that said we complied with everything in the consent decree. We still have a consent decree. We are still under consent orders. We just recently were given stipulations for dropping the consent decree by the Department of Justice and the US EPA Region 5 in Chicago. We're reading those stipulations, seeing what the conditions are, and then we're going to respond. So hopefully, by the end of this year, but given the fact that it was 16 years since this request started, who knows? But hopefully, ultimately, at the end of this year, we'll have gotten out from underneath that consent decree. That's pretty much all I had. I would just like to say, though, I really thank the guys and the gals that work in the utilities department. You know, they work long hours. They work under harsh conditions. I mean, it's below zero. They're fixing sewer. They're fixing water. They're running the water plant. They're doing what they have to do to make sure that those utilities are run correctly, efficiently, and that they're safe for all of us. So with that, next up here is Mr. Tom McVicker, and then Chris is going to follow him after that. If you have any questions, like I say, just give me a call and or come see me.
Excellent.
Excellent. 3 minutes.
See, last time I was up here, you guys all yelled at me because I talked way too long. So Nick's already told you some of the stuff. Lou's told you most of the stuff. So I'll just hit the highlights. 2022, we were up in production. We produced 1.4 billion gallons of water. That's up pre-COVID now, so we're back producing more water than we was during the COVID times. You guys can flip through these pages. Chemical costs are a huge thing that hit us this year. We're up 25.7% over what we were last year. Half the problem's been finding chemicals. We've had to just take prices as a given to us because it's not been readily available. One thing we're crossing right now is Karis Chemical that we get our phosphates and our permanganates from. They just had a huge fire that burnt their factory down. They produce 100% of the permanganates used in the United States. So now everybody's scrambling, trying to buy up all the surplus that was here, and we're trying to get stuff from overseas. So I got an email about 15 minutes before I come up here that we're scheduled to get a load of permanganate tomorrow. So we're stretching that until hopefully next week we'll get a load of permanganate in. Permanganate's used to take out TOCs, which reduces the TTHMs, which is the system we put in to remove carcinogens that possibly could be in the water from the disinfectant part of the treatment process. So chlorine went up 296% since I've been here. It's up monetarily 74.2% from 2021. Everything went up. Copper sulfate's up 61.8%. So it is what it is. I mean, it's the way everything's going. Revenue streams. Sewer District 6, which is Guernsey County, they're our largest customer. They purchased 42% of our water last year, as opposed to 17% of our water that went in town here. So just kind of let you know what size customer they are to us. With the rate increase, we knew it was going to be up, but our receipts were up about $500,000 this year, but our expenses, because we paid cash for Woodlawn Avenue, it shows that we're up a little over $2 million over the previous year. But we did pay cash for Highland or Woodlawn and Highland. So water loss, we're at a calculated adjusted amount. When I take out the amount that we use for flushing filters, flushing hydrants, we're at about 18.8% water loss, which anything under 30, the EPA looks at is really good. So we're doing okay there. We're at 37% if I don't take out those, but we know that we use that water for hydrant flushing, and so we're allowed to adjust that number. I don't know. Nick hit on some of the projects. Lou hit on a couple. There's a couple other ones that we did in-house. The rapid mixers down at the plant, they are where the water comes in, the chemical comes in, it's just a big powder mixed up. But we had one of the gearboxes go bad. When we took it out, we noticed that the substructure underneath was starting to rot. It'd been in there for 60 years. So we ended up cutting that out and rebuilding that. And Brian Starr, and he took the lead on it with Dallas and Sean aiding him in reconstructing both of those. We had some meters and pressure sustaining valves that were in pits behind the plant that were put in when Jeanette Wiersbicki was the city engineer. And over the years, they quit working, and we had other meters that we were taking our readings off of, but then the pressure sustaining valve stuck. And we had a leak one day, and we couldn't figure out why we couldn't get water to the tank. So we started looking at these valves and noticed that they were stuck holding the water in. So when we thought we were producing like 120 pounds of pressure pushing the water out, that was just to that valve, and it was 105 on the other side. So we took those valves out, we took the meters out, replaced the meters, and removed the sustaining valves, and now that did a substantial increase on the flow being able to leave the plant because there's not a restriction there. So that was a huge find for us. And as far as staff, we got pretty much the same staff as we've had for the last few years. We've added Dave Whittle. He's working third shift for us. Dave just recently completed his class work, and he's getting ready to go take his Class 1 license here in the next month or so. So other than that, we still have Brian Starr, Class 4 operator, Sean Kirkbright, Class 3 operator, Kevin Lenzo, Class 3, Dallas Green is a Class 3, and then Tommy Newhart, he got his Class 1 this past year, so now he's working towards his Class 2. So distribution wise, they were up a little bit this year on their leaks. We had 109 leaks this year. The largest percentage was, most people think they're in the cold months, but they're actually in the hot months for us when things start drying out and moving. 17.4% in June, 20.2% were in July, and then compared to December was 4.6. So that's it. Yep. So other than that, everything else is in here that we did this year. You guys can look at it. If you have any questions, let me know.
Thanks.
Good evening.
Hey, Chris.
My name is Chris Jamiel, Superintendent of the wastewater plant. I'll make this real brief for you. All the particulars are in my report for you. I just will say a little quick word. I'd like to thank the staff at the wastewater treatment plant and Jeff Huff and the collections crew for another good year. Progress is being made every year. With all that goes into treating wastewater, staying within budget, that's a big one, and protecting the environment is one of many things that we do. And I also want to add what Lou had touched on about that federal consent decree order, being on that thing for almost 20 years now. It's going to be nice to get off of that. Our last plant permit we got, which was a year and a half ago, they actually took some regulation off of us. So that's the first I've ever seen that. So that's always a good sign. Again, in 2022, the plant had no violations. There was no significant non-compliance with any of the industries in town. And we added 2 new people to our staff because last year we had 3 that retired. They're getting caught up getting their licenses, and they're going to work out really good because they're good workers. In closing, I'd like to say the Water Pollution Control Center, through proper operation of the plant, makes a small but important contribution to preserving our water supply. By preventing the discharge of pollutants into Wills Creek, we are helping the people who rely on the same water. The staff and I can be proud of the work we've carried out in 2022 and look forward to doing the same this year. Thanks.
I told Lou this story when he was talking to me about the consent decree many years ago when we first became victim to that. The city was fined, one of our first installments was $38,000. So we, of course, wrote the check and sent it off to the federal EPA. 18 months later, we got a letter back from them with the uncashed check that said, "We haven't found time to cash this. Can you please cut us another check?" Donna Gander was our auditor at the time, and she drug her feet. She said, "I'm going to wait 18 months, but I'm going to wait a little while before I write another check."
Wow, that's a crazy story. You know, there's so much that goes on in those departments that's below the surface, but it's so important. If it don't work, you're going to know about it real quick. And I thank all those guys and the crews and the different things behind the scenes. We're going to roll into public safety departments, and first up, we have Rocky Hill.
Good evening, everybody.
Good evening, Robbie.
On behalf of the Public Safety Department, I want to thank each of you for all your assistance this past year because we've come to you with a lot, I know. It's probably not going to get any better. I will tell you that I have the pleasure of working with a lot of consummate professionals throughout this entire city. but I'm directly responsible for the police, fire, code enforcement, economic development departments, as well as the public lands and grounds area, which is quite fun. I will not get into a lot on police and fire and code enforcement and economic development because they will be coming up and speaking on their own behalves. So I will not take away from their thunder. Although I will tell you that we have endured some things and have come through some very good things. And I will put these folks up against anybody in the state when it comes to dealing with the issues that we've had to deal with within our municipality. As far as part of my job, besides overseeing those departments, I'm also the city's liaison for things such as the seat board, also through the EMA commission through the county. I also represent us in the LAPC, which is the Local Emergency Planning Commission. I'm also involved because the city is a member of the Ohio Municipal League. I am involved, appointed by OML to serve on the SIEC, which is State Interoperability Executive Committee, which oversees areas dealing with marks, the radio systems, as well as some fiber issues as well. I also am the vice president for the Ohio Association of Safety Directors. I think next year I'll become president, so I get to operate and get a lot of good networking there as well. Where our biggest issue right now dealing with, as most of you know, is dealing with our public lands and buildings. It's not just the fact that trying to get things done, because I can find people to do it. Right now, we're in a mess trying to wait for products to get here. Give you an idea, 30 to 35 weeks waiting on an elevator, so it's going to be summertime before they can even get on that. I got a generator coming from the top of this building to service the dispatch area and our IT area, and that covers a 16 to 20 week time frame. So we're dealing with those. We were able to get 2 new furnaces for this building, and we've had some roof issues that we've dealt with between municipal court and utilities and treasurer's office we've dealt with, and we've got those, I think, fairly fixed. So if you have any other questions or anything, you know where I'm at. Call me anytime. You have my number and such. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Thanks, Rocky. I'll bring this up because something happens to me someday and somebody else is doing this job. To have a service and safety director split like that is huge. The amount of detail and work that needs done, communications, it just matters. When I first came in, tried to morph it all together, it was me and Bob, and thanks for them 3 or 4 years, Bob kept me under control there, but it grew rather quickly, and I think Sharon gave me some ideas on the history of things, and I appreciate that. So next up, we have the Fire Chief Deeks, who's been making annual trips up here.
More like weekly.
Gonna get his own, gonna give you your own desk here.
Morning now. So, good evening, everyone. Appreciate being here. Just to give you a little rundown, you have the specifics in front of you. But we had roughly 1,838 calls for the year. About 1,300 were all medical calls, EMS calls, and you know the situation that we have discussed and hopefully how we're going to make it a little bit better. Fire-wise, we had 38 house fires this year. Now that ranges from room and contents, small fire, to a full-blown, oh Lord, look out kind of thing. But some of the major accomplishments, that we got the new engine in. Of course, most of you came up to the department when that was delivered to us. So we got rid of the one that was causing us all kinds of issues. So hopefully our maintenance line item budget will get a little bit of relief here for it. The other thing I didn't put in the report was our ISO rating. And insurance service organizations, that basically determines what people pay for their homeowners insurance. The city's been a 5 ever since I was hired. I finally got the report back this past year. They dropped us down to a 4. 1 is the best. I'm pretty excited about that, and I think there's still more steps that we're going to take interdepartmentally to get that even lower, hopefully down to a 3 for our city residents. So we're doing everything we can, to get there. It takes time. But I also want to thank, TS for Thomas Wicker. I went to school at TS. Anyhow, working with them and the water department with the hydrants, here in town, letting us go out and actually get pressures off of them and how much gallons per minute comes out of this hydrant, that dramatically helps the city's ISO rating. And it's good for us to know too, that we need to know on that end. Grant wise, I mean, you see the number there, we received over $54,000 in grants. Pretty excited about that. The biggest one was the AFG grant that got us, all new rescue tools, battery operated rescue tools. So we're going through that, getting used to those in different ways. But what I'm most proud of is the personnel at the fire station. I mean, you can see that education, I think, I've always preached that education is a silver bullet. With what they learn in these education classes that they're taking, I would say by the time I retire here in 5 or 6 years, our department, almost every member will have an associate's degree, at least in the fire field or in that general area. So I'm pretty excited about that, and I'll encourage them to keep doing with that. Fire safety inspections with COVID. Of course, we're coming out with COVID. We're trying to get caught back up with our inspections, preventing the fires from starting in the first place. That's what we're here for. So we're going to do everything we can. I do want to thank Kim Conrath. I know I've worked with her quite a bit this year on different properties here in town that we're trying to get a little bit better, so we're working towards that goal. So, but again, the guys at the station, I can't say enough about. I mean, do we always agree on stuff? No, but you know what? When it's time to go and the bell rings, those guys I can promise you, will risk their lives to save someone. So that's what we're here for. So it's all about the public safety of our citizens. And I also want to thank Cambridge Township. I've had several meetings with Cambridge Township, meeting with them and the township trustees, keeping that relationship that we need with them up and running, and just communicating to them to let them know what our needs are, what's going on out in the community, and the whole 9 yards. So I appreciate working with them also. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All this stuff is sent out, so you can print out what you want out of it. All these reports are really pretty neat. Pretty in-depth, the different things that go on in all the departments. Next up is Code Enforcement Kim Conrath, who's taken ill. She's going to be fine, but she just begged off a little bit tonight, and I just said, I'll take care of it. I guess, let's be real, property code comes to the mayor's office and trickles its way around, and we go all, in fact, we had a little discussion about that earlier tonight. It's where the rubber hits the road. We talk and joke about the fireworks in the park with me, but property code is right there, if not ahead of that for me. From the time I took the helm, I promised every yard would get mowed. We developed a program, and I'll get on to the facts. She mowed 453 times last year at a cost of $22,375. We received back $55,000 last year through the the half-year tax. That came from decisions this group made many moons ago about putting it on their taxes. And there was some hubbub back in the day that, we better not do. We had no choice. Somebody's got to mow this grass. And, we stick behind it. And mind you, through the court system, I want to say hi to the courts and their workers there, our private workers, our friends, street department, every department, sewer department. There's a couple of holidays that they know the mayor's coming out and they just go because we just like things to look nice. And I get people come up to me all the time from other areas and go, they notice that. And you get off some of these other communities off the interstate and you take a hard look, you'll see ours is pretty mowed up compared to most places. And if we can do better, we want to. And I think there is a couple places we got to work on. There always is, always is. We coordinate spring and fall cleanup. Folks, that just doesn't happen everywhere. A lot of hard work goes behind that to make that happen. 92 tons of unwanted items. That wasn't even one of our bigger ones, but it was huge. Think about that. 92 tons. Let's just say we skip that a couple of years. What do you think? we're talking about that place on Clark Street, well, it'd be out in the middle of the street. Filled 2 tire trailers, collecting scrap. Scrap netted us $2,865 and tires $708, which helps defray the cost. That's huge. Some of you, most of you, have spent a day down there watching all that. It's pretty crazy. But I can't say enough about that. Fall cleanup, it's always a little smaller, but again, consistency, and it mattered. Lions Club helped. We want to thank them. Court helped. Court's been a big help in the last few years about, joining in when we have a difficult situation, and they step up. Fires within the city. Chief Deeks mentioned that. 8 fires in 2022. 4 were insured and demolished and repaired, and 2 was uninsured structures were sold and repaired by the new owner. 2 were set to be demolished with the land bank, and you can guess which one that is. Every one of these are different. Not one of them is the same. There's just never property rights, time rights. The bank owns it, can't find the owner. Got insurance, don't have insurance. Half had insurance. That's just a little line in some of the difficulties we have in other areas. I think I heard in water 50% here and 50% there. It's just interesting. We're at the dividing line. Which way we're trying to go here? Towing program. Now, we worked in conjunction with the police. They're a lot of times busy with a lot bigger things. So watching flat tires and some other stuff going on, or something sat there for 3 months. She flagged something with Officer Loudon and Brandiger. 124 vehicles were illegally parked or non-drivable with expired plates, were tagged, and the owner notified. They go to a lot of extensive steps to make sure that person's notified. But when it blows up, that's for, no one told us, one of them deals. But anyhow, I do appreciate all the work that goes on there, because, again, we don't know where these things come from sometimes. It could be some other stuff going on. Disappearing people sometimes in some of the bigger cities. Worked with municipal court, the magistrate court performed, landlords, and et cetera. Helped facilitate the purchase of 2 properties to finalize the Goat Hill properties. Worked on the current land bank application for current demolition grant, which Brandon, I'm sure, will be mentioning some of that, because in-house, the county has enabled us to kind of be the controlling entity in that. And I think I have some other people sit on the land bank in the room tonight, so that's a good thing. We continue to track and monitor code enforcement violation of vacant property registration, rental registration programs, as well work as APS, CPS, Cambridge Police Department. I also serve on the Main Street Board. Respectfully submitted, Kim Conrad. That's an area where everybody up here I know in front of me has called at least a couple times, and probably will continue to, and know the difficulties. And I want to praise this council for caring, because I know your passion in these areas is as much as my passion as her passion. And sometimes there's a little bit too much passion, but we're going to get to the bottom of it. Thank you very much on that. And next up, we have Economic Community Development, and that is Brandon Hines.
Hey, everyone. Pretty fresh to the position. Everyone knows that. Interim as last year, started last year, now full-time director this year. A few things I want to go into would be the department. We had started the 2021 CHIP grant. Now, we were awarded that, of course, last year, but we really got the wheels turning this year. And we are given money to conduct home repairs, which as of right now, we're at 13, and we're only supposed to do 12. We still got money left, and I'm expecting to hit 20. So I'm exceeding that right now. Now, with full rehabs, now we have to bring the whole house up to code. Okay, that was a little bit more tricky, harder to do. We're near completion on the first one, and I've already laid out the groundwork on the next 5, which I'm expecting to exceed that by 1 as well. Another thing we have going on is the new construction. That's for the Habitat house, and that's being constructed as of right now on Quail Hollow. They've got the foundation underway, so they're going to be starting to throw the sticks down here soon. next grant that we're working on currently, is the 2022 allocation grant. We had submitted and had been awarded it. And we are able to assist with 2 additional home repairs throughout the county with this as well. Okay, and the additional funding for this is to help fund sidewalks for Mill Street in the village of Senecaville. So if there's some people that don't know, we assist the county in administering the CHIP allocation, CDBG, a lot of CDBG grants. So we don't just help the city, we help the whole county. Next on the list here is the Building Demolition and Site Revitalization Grant. Our department, we assisted Guernsey County Land
Land bank.
tongue-tied. All right, yeah. Corporation with submitting and being awarded the grant. This grant will be used to fund testing, abatement of any asbestos found in addition to the cost of demolition on these structures. A total of 9 structures will be demolished under this grant. We're most likely going to be hitting demolition on the first or second week of February. So stay tuned on that.
My word.
Close.
I know.
No questions?
Okay. And the next grant that we're kind of feeling around on is the 2023 Downtown Revitalization Grant. We've had a local business, downtown business, interested in funding for HVAC and roofing repairs or a total overhaul. So we're currently in talks about that. And of course, if we submit it, it's going to be under the 2023, but these talks begun in 2022. So that's why it's on there. Our department for fair housing, Evelyn King is continuing to act as the main contact for the fair housing on behalf of the city of Cambridge. And she provided the following. The fair housing program provides counseling and referral services to area residents. Additionally, the Fair Housing Program works with the State of Ohio Fair Housing and Civil Rights Office, the Ohio Civil Rights Commission, Southeastern Ohio Legal Services, as well as area social service agencies, in addition to in order to resolve the needs of our residents. Now we've got some new employees, some shake around in there. Everyone knows. Now we have a new inspector on staff. That would be Jack McElroy. He's come to assist in there part-time. He has 50 years of experience in construction, and his duties will include overseeing that all projects are done to the satisfaction of federal, state, and local levels. Both Kimberly Hott and Evelyn King continue to assist the department as consultants to ensure the department is in compliance with all grants submitted and administered. Now, 2022 has been both complicated and challenging for the department, with employees retiring or seeking other career opportunities. The department still managed to survive the year. We appreciate the city and county and their trust and all of us within the department. With that said, we will continue to meet or exceed our residents' expectations and to further provide those in need with the proper assistance. Thank you.
Thanks, Brandon.
Brandon.
That young man grew up literally in the last 15 years. It's been incredible to watch the different steps. The LLC, again, I want to thank the council for allowing us to try something different. It has been pretty successful. I did like the one line you wrote in there with some of the challenges we had last year. We had a couple of them. We're trying to overcome that as well. But other than that, great report. And I think we're going to have to change this in the future. I think we need to move him up into service departments, and the police department needs to be moved back up in there because this is definitely safety. So Captain Peoples, you want to come on up here? He's filling in tonight, and he's go-to guy. Yeah.
Good evening, council. I know you have the report that Chief Delancey submitted, so I will just hit the high points. We added 2 officers in 2022 through a lateral transfer program. They're both young officers. They bring experience, but what I like about the younger officers is they bring energy. We also hired 2 new dispatchers as well. We're not up to full staff yet. We're swearing in 2 people this Thursday, and they're going to the academy in February, but we won't see them until June or July. So some hurdles there, but we're working through them. We got 2 new cars. We stayed on our rotation, and we also got a new SWAT van. If you haven't seen it, it's pretty neat. We saved some money by doing some in-house work. Greg Johnson put benches, and it's really nice. If you get a chance, stop in, take you back there and look at it. Before I forget, because it's not in the report and I didn't write it down, last year, at the end of last year, we were awarded a $42,000 body camera grant through Criminal Justice Services. We haven't got the money, but we're going to. It's going to upgrade all of our body cameras and storage capabilities. The biggest project is our CAD and RMS system, records management system. We bought it in 2021, but it took the entire year of 22 to build the program. We had officers going out to every street corner and street, getting GPS coordinates so that the manufacturer could put them into the computer. Happy to say we launched it the 11th of this year, and so far it's working good. Not everything's integrated, but we're going to get there. Back to the cars. Well, by getting those cars, it freed up some old backup cars, and as you're aware, we donated one to the Mideast Career Technology Center. If you haven't seen that, they did it up nice. They stripped all our stuff off of it, put their decals. It looks really, really good. Calls for service, we're up 847 calls across the board. We've seen that go up every year, a lot more since COVID, but we're still working our way out of that. Every sworn officer completed 27 hours of mandatory continued professional training. On top of that, officers chose to go to other schools, firearms, tactics, driving, investigative type of schools that they have the ability to go to. And I just got the email today. We got another set of CPTs for the year. 133 overdoses we responded to. 51 times we administered Narcan. Happy to say the deaths from overdoses, at least in the city, are down by 1 from 7 to 6 from last year. So promising sight there. Our canines are doing really well. Great group of guys. One of the canines is Joda. He's attached to our school resource officer, Ben Harper, and doing positive things out at the school with getting in touch with the kids and the dog. Doing exactly what we thought it would do, bring them together. Did a successful Citizens Police Academy last year, and we're going to kick another one off here in a couple months. So that project's going good. Other than that, I want to thank you for all your help. Thank the mayor, safety director, Sue Ellen. They've been great, but above all, the officers of your police department. They have faced some challenges last year. We're going to still face them this year. The amount of overtime and time that they've put in on behalf of the citizens of Cambridge is commendable. I don't thank them enough, but I'm here saying it out loud. I thank them and appreciate the work that they do. Thank you.
Thanks.
That area is just always got something going on. I mean, it's amazing the work they do. I think Safety Director Hill, we had full staffing maybe for 2 days. I mean, we worked and worked and worked and got right there, and we had a kumbaya moment, and 2 days later, he come back in doing one of these, and it shifted again. Lateral transfer has been a big thing. That's been a good thing for us, but now we got 2 young men trying a different route. We're going to do through that, but it just seems like we're always chasing that. But that link to the school system is huge. That's something that we change, and it needs to stay like that. We need that. It's worked really well. But again, as we look way around us in other states and different things on the news, and I'm not going to elaborate on that, we got to stay vigilant. We got to stay aggressive. And we can't allow that to leak into our town. And That's where I hang my hat, and I know most of you do too. We'll do everything we can to keep it that way. Elected and appointed officials, and first, without up on the list, would be the auditor, Sue Ellen Johnson.
Good evening. It is hard to believe this is my 24th State of the City address. I've been at it so long. I have no hair color left. As you know, in the past 2 years, we have retired 2 employees who had a combined years of experience of 62 years. That is not easy to replace. Thank goodness I have Barb Purdom, who is now my deputy auditor, and Sheila Maple has accepted the payroll position in our office, and she's doing a wonderful job. As the chairman of the insurance committee, along with Rocky Hill and a member of each of the unions and the insurance rep, we have done something that is truly remarkable in the health insurance world. We have received a 0% renewal rate for 3 years in a row. That is phenomenal. It really is. It really is unheard of. In our office, we've processed over 4,500 payroll and related checks. We've processed over 8,000 payments to vendors. We've handled all the workers' comp claims, health insurance issues, type cemetery deeds. We've juggled budgets. We've been a sounding board for certain department heads, who I will not mention any names, Jeff Deeks. And most of all, we've tried to keep that man over there happy. So you realize my pain. Honestly, I'd really like to thank my staff. Barb Purdom is my right arm. She's phenomenal. We're very lucky to have hired Sheila Maple. She's doing a terrific job. I work with wonderful elected officials and department heads, and they keep life interesting and fun. And I appreciate your attention. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Chief Deeks, I think he's up 5 pounds from just eating cookies and stuff, but that's fine. Anyhow, next up here, we got the Treasurer Income Tax Department, and we have Mike Sikora.
Hello. Now the Council and the Finance Committee, you get your monthly reports to see where we are in the income tax. Our collections were up 4.1% from the previous year, and the tax department has exceeded their budgetary revenue goals for 2022. We take an active role in making sure that businesses are complying, and I work with the investment committee, and our investments last year earned over $227,000. Not too bad considering the way the rates are. With the challenges we've had in the past couple of years with COVID and such, there's such a synergy that we have now in between the auditor's office, the mayor's office, law director, utilities, municipal court, police, and the city council. The sum of every one of these working together is much better than offices working independently. We're available here to serve the public. We have a dedicated staff of 3 people, and we've handled over $13,000 pieces of tax-related material through the office, and every month we balance all the city's assets to the penny. Myself and the auditor, we speak daily about the finances of the city, and today we renew our pledge again to work harder for the future and greater good of the city. Thank you.
Thanks, Mike.
You know, and he's right about this, the communication that takes place to get the job done, and chasing after those tax dollars, it's a never-ending situation. When I came into office, we got interest around 600,000. Within 5 years, it was 75,000. So when I hear 200,000, even though that's a big number, but when you're dealing with multiple millions of dollars, it's really not. But it's a heck of a long way from 75,000. And we appreciate that because when you hear about a SWAT van or some of these other things we have to do once in a while, that's where the rubber hits the road. And that fire truck, well, thank you on that. Because just laying stuff out, Sue Ellen pinches the penny and hoards them in the columns. Mike goes out and does this, and then Bill comes in and tells me I'm not allowed to do something. It's a long story. So next up, I'll let Bill Ferguson tell you about it.
Good evening. First, I guess I'd have to ask the mayor how it was I came to be the caboose on this train. Must have gave him some advice he didn't really, I'm just kidding. He didn't really care for it. I'm happy to be here and that you take the time to care enough to listen to what the folks who provide services to residents do. First, I don't think anyone who's been in charge of any people know that while we sometimes get the credit, we're not much without our staffs. So I'd just like to publicly thank mine for everything they do over the course of the year. Just a couple of points from last year. We've operated a victim assistance program that's been funded by grants since I took office. Last year, receipts put us over $1.5 million for my career in the office. 100% of that money goes to reimburse the city for services for crime victims in the city. So we're proud of that fact. Part of what I really enjoy about the law director's position is that I get to work with virtually every other department head, officer in the city on what they're doing. And while I could tell you something about every one of them, for this year, I'll just hit a couple. For the ones that we have really spent the most time with or significant time with. The first is working with the treasurer's office, Mike Sikora. He does a tremendous job. His staff does a tremendous job. Together, our respective staffs have put together systems and programs that have helped produce some of the revenue. We've worked with the court and Mike to put together a process where we take the folks to court and we get a lot of payment programs for people that are repaying delinquencies. Nobody wants to pay taxes, but it's a little less painful if we know that everyone is paying their fair share. And both Mike and I feel it's our responsibility to make that happen. So we probably have more folks on payment plans repaying the city right now than by far than I've ever been aware of. We worked a lot this year with our engineer, Nick Cunningham. Again, we had the Clark Street issues and litigation problems that we had talked about before. Nick was also very involved with my office and I with him on the Community Reinvestment Act abatement for the Rural King Development Project down there, along with several other things. So I thank Nick, always 100% professional and prepared on everything that we do. We worked a little with James Green at the cemetery to help collect some fees. You'd be surprised the number of people that just say, hey, I'd like to buy a lot, pay you later. Someone is interred, no payments forthcoming. So we were able to successfully complete a number of collections for him. Again, we work a lot with Kim Conrath in code enforcement. A big thing for the last year was the Goat Hill, what I'll call the Goat Hill Development Project. Ran into some problems, had to have litigation at the end of the day. The litigation was successful, the sale went through, and the money was placed into the city coffers. I enjoy what I do. I've been doing it for a while. I want to thank everyone here. I've enjoyed an incredible amount of support and cooperation in all the time that I've been doing this job, and I really appreciate it. You can't do much without that type of cooperation, both from council, the administration, most of the time, and all of the people that are sitting behind me and all of their staff. So thank you all very much.
Thanks, Bill.
Thank you.
One of the things he told me, thanks, Bill. The first year I came into office, and he made me come down and meet with him. And I come down to his office, and I brought Bob with me. He said, I'm the right arm, he's your left arm. And I'm like, what? And call me before you do anything crazy. Well, I think I've called you a few times. Oh, no. Yeah, I remember it. It's just a really interesting experience. There is no book on it. It just kind of happens. I added a couple things this year that I want to go on record. This has to continue for the rest of the history of this town, regardless who the mayor is or the city council. We have a tree commission that exists out there, a Tree City USA that we are extremely proud of, but I want people to continue to understand what that's about. And I don't want to steal her thunder, but this year we're going to host Tree City USA for the second time. And we kind of accidentally got ourselves set up for that, Tom Lanning, but of course he'll deny it, but I know how that works. But, and then of course, Main Street. Without look what we've been through, and she's in the room tonight. So without further ado, I'd like to have Bridget Todd come up. She's in charge of the tree commission. Sue Cowden, a lot of people still think it's Sue. Sue's still with us. This lady right here, make no bones about it, it's going to be awesome going forward.
Good evening, thank you. Our tree commission is a 5-member board. We are volunteers. And actually right now we are short 1 member and hope to be bringing in a new, some younger people, a younger person who has energy and healthy knees and legs because our work requires that. So we're just, as usual, this past year, we responded to any kind of tree reports that came in, tree issues, tree emergencies that were within city property, not on private property. We did a lot of street tree pruning, young tree pruning. I put the locations there for you to see. And our biggest thing this past year was planting. We planted 98 trees on Clark Street, 83 trees on Steubenville Avenue, 7 trees in the new little park on the corner of Clark Street and Beatty, and then 14 other trees. There were just different trees that needed to be replaced because of different issues. And those are all things that we're going to continue in the new year as well. Our total trees planted for this year were 212, which we're very proud of, and it was not easy. Please don't do that to me again, Mayor. We pruned 267 trees. We had 34 trees removed, 307 documented volunteer hours. That does not count millions of emails and phone calls and just, conversations at the grocery store. This spring, we will receive 43 years of Tree City USA. And if you have a chance to look online and see, we are one of very few cities in the state of Ohio that is that high. There are literally only a handful that have more years than us. So it's really a point of pride, and that's our biggest thing is we just always want to make sure that we are maintaining what we have and growing. Okay. So our plans, as the mayor said, our biggest thing this coming year is that we are hosting Tree City USA Awards. I think that'll be in May, but nothing is firm. We're still unclear who signed us up for that, actually. Everyone's pointing fingers, but no one has taken responsibility, but it'll be a great opportunity. I'm really excited to do that. I'm excited to show all the other cities in the state what we've done here. And I just want to thank you, council, very much. Huge thanks to our mayor, who is our biggest cheerleader. Thank you for Kelly. She's fantastic. And Tom Lanning and Tim Ellison, who are also crucial. Thanks.
Thank you. Again, a couple key moments. You might remember them. This body here enabled us to go from a 3-member body to a 5-member volunteer group many years ago. It was started under the Schaub administration in the early days. They started the tree commission. I think in the middle years, it just never was truly understood. It got to the place where it got controversial, and there actually was a moment where they thought about eliminating it. And that would be so big a mistake you can't even imagine. Now, with those numbers and all the headaches, and I knew it was very difficult, but you hear me say, I want to see us plant more trees every year, James. I'm looking out there today. Yeah, when you go out to the cemetery, go out in there and hang a left, and you go through that run right through there. Does it not remind you back in the days like the Civil War, and they go down the one road going to the mansion, you know? It's a long story. I know I have a lot of problems. But the tree thing really gets me going sometimes because no, and Tommy's group with Tim having some, when people call, you can't imagine how people call flipping out about trees. And to have an answer, and now we have a sheet and a process. And I'm glad you brought Kelly's name up. You know, we had some changes in my time in office. Kelly's been really unbelievable, been a great find. I know something's up because I can't even talk to her for the first 2 hours in the morning while everybody else gets through all, you know. So it's nice to see somebody. She's got a lot of personality and just does a nice job. So I appreciate that. So up next, we have Main Street, Mary Beth Sills.
Good evening, everybody. I
evening.
finally do not have play practice tonight, so I can be here. Before I get to the heart and soul of Cambridge Main Street, I would like to first thank all of you for the office space that you've provided. I was a gypsy for a few years and bounced back and forth to a few locations, so it is nice to finally have a permanent home where I can spread my paperwork and fly. But I do want to thank Ron Gambita and the CDC for temporarily housing us while our space was being remodeled and worked on. So that is greatly appreciated. It's also nice to have our board meetings and other things there as well. I would also like to thank the street department for all the help they provide during the Main Street events, for helping to put up the banners that are still in my office and ready to be put up. The police department for providing assistance and security at the events, and of course the fire department for filling the water tank every spring when we need flower waterers. If you would like to spend 2 hours in downtown Cambridge watering flowers, we also are accepting volunteers for that as well. Speaking of volunteers, we dedicated over 11,000 hours to the events, meetings, flowers, programs, and activities of Cambridge Main Street in downtown. Over 14,000 visitors attended the various events, activities, and programs that Cambridge Main Street provided. The National Road Bike Show and Rib Fest saw one of the largest crowds we've ever seen at roughly 5,800 people. That information was provided via an organization and company called Placer AI. So that was real life data that was provided to us. We think it's a little more than 5,800, but that was the data that was provided. We raised over $1,200 for other nonprofit organizations and agencies, including the Cambridge K-9 officers, Cambridge Performing Arts Center, Feed My People, Grace Pantry, and the Salvation Army. We plan to do those activities again this year as a way to give back to the community that gives to us. Cambridge Main Street collected over 100 makeup bags, toiletries, supplies, and other items for Secret Santa to distribute to teenagers in our community. We recognize that that was a group and a demographic of individuals that often gets overlooked at Christmas time. So we raised and collected all those materials and donated all of those to Secret Santa. We were the recipient of an EOTA Award of Excellence via the Dale Hyman Legacy Grant for our Even Bigfoot Shops Downtown Cambridge marketing campaign. That's been one of my favorite projects in our marketing realm. Occasionally you will see him up and down Wheeling Avenue making purchases. We were the recipients of 2 Paul Brunn revitalization grants. One will be the building adjacent to City Hall here, the Huey-owned building, where they're going to be doing some point tucking and other repairs to the building. And then most recently, the Cambridge Performing Arts Center was recipient of $75,000 to replace the roof on the building so that they can start their massive renovation plans. We attended over 120 training sessions, online training sessions, workshops, and other learning opportunities to build and grow upon Cambridge Main Street. I personally attended the Police Department Citizens Police Academy, one of the best experiences I've ever had in my life. If you have not taken it, take it. I learned so much, and it was an amazing experience. We do sponsor one of the dinners as part of the experience for the participants, and it's another way for us to give back. And then I attended the Voinovich Academy Leading in Appalachia Advocacy. It was a 6-month online cohort training opened my eyes to working with elected officials, working with department heads and other agencies. It was a wonderful learning experience put on through OU out of Athens. Over $200,000 in donations, volunteer hours, and in-kind donations are leveraged on behalf of Cambridge Main Street. That's roughly the same number every year. That includes in-kind tax preparation services that are provided to us, our volunteer hours, etc. We completed over 1,200 hours or marketing campaigns, mostly social media because we have found Facebook to be very popular. If you're not following us every Wednesday, we have launched a Where Is It Wednesday, where I find some historic photo, usually downtown Cambridge, but on occasion I'll jump to one of the side streets and I'll say, where is it? So this past week, we did the Orpheum Theater, which would eventually become the Cambridge Performing Arts Center. This coming week, we will focus on the State Theater. It's kind of theater month for the February pictures, but we have some other cool ones that are going to be launched. So if you don't see those, do check those out. Those go live usually around 7:30, 8 o'clock in the morning. And it's just a way for folks to kind of see Cambridge Main Street back in the day. So if you have historic photos that you'd like to see on there, feel free to send them our way, and I will, of course, give you credit for those. We did present the Celebration on Main Awards to several downtown businesses, organizations, and volunteers as a way to celebrate the accomplishments of not only those individuals, but us as an agency. We welcomed several new businesses to downtown, and we did retain our accreditation status for 2023. I am a staff of one and an army of volunteers, so I cannot say enough thanks to my board, to the folks that volunteer at our events, to all those that make the magic happen. And we are going to be working on a marketing campaign in 2023 because of the bridge. So we're encouraging you to detour to downtown for adventure. So thank you.
Thanks, Mary Beth.
Thanks. In closing, I mean, I could go on and you get that every week, but, yeah, right. But, we just had a phenomenal busy year in 2023, and it's not gonna lighten a ton. I have asked our group to, let's tighten it up a little bit and finish what things we've got going out there, Clark Street, do what we have to do, and then we got the bridge coming. Without question, that is going to be an insurmountable, that's it. We all agree it's going to be touch and go at times. There's going to be some things and difficulties we're going to have that we're just going to have to work through. I don't think anyone can really remember. I think I was 4 years old when they went through there with that, so it's been a while. So when you go down below, hopefully some of them took my challenge and drove down in there and looked at that. It's just warming up, and it's already unbelievable. So we got that. You know, when it comes down to numbers, we're in a good moment right now. Enjoy the moment. Be proud of what you've accomplished. I want to say thank you to everybody in this room and to many of your people that's not in the room tonight, because we're only as strong as our smallest group, and it takes us all. We're a small area, Cambridge is, but I like, you know, it's a special place. And all these things you heard here tonight kind of glues it all together, goes on every day. And I want to take a personal thanks, Council President. The clerk is in this building all the time, represents all of you as I make my rounds around here, and I do that often. It helps keep me level and going in the right direction. Sharon, I want to thank you on that. Even though I know I make you pull your hair out sometimes too. But it's, you know, it's a common thing, so. Anybody have any questions of me?
Any questions of the mayor this evening? And thank you, Mayor, and really thanks to everybody that came up and spent their time with us. And I know you guys put a lot of time into your reports, and believe me, it's appreciated by every member of the council, because we get to figure out exactly what's happened throughout the year. Since we're not, you know, we're all volunteers in a way for the amount of money we make, for the amount of time we put into the job, but you know, we're not here day in and day out, and it's a way for us to really get a deep appreciation for what goes on here on a daily basis. So thank you all.
Thank you.
Okay. We'll move on our business. Communications.
I have the park board minutes from December the 7th.
Mr. Hoffman,
Motion to accept and place on file.
Mr. McMillan.
Second the motion?
All in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same side. That motion is granted. Next, please.
I have the auditor and treasurer report for the month of December.
Mr. Leonard,
I'll make a motion, we accept and place on file.
Mr. Vancho.
second that motion.
All in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That motion is granted. Is that it?
That's it.
Okay, we'll go to reports committees.
Report of Finance Committee, January the 17th. We recommend that council authorize the city auditor to make advance draws for 2023.
Any questions of the committee on that report? Next, please.
Report of Finance Committee, January the 17th. We recommend that council authorize the administration to advertise for bids and enter into contract for the 2023 continuous street improvement projects.
Any questions of the committee on that report? Next, please.
Report of Finance Committee, January the 17th. We recommend that the following transfers and appropriations be approved. Appropriate $352 to police, travel, and school.
Any questions of the committee on that report? Next, please.
Report of Finance Committee, January the 17th. We recommend that council adopt an ordinance to establish park seasonal employee pay rates.
Any questions of the committee on that report? Next, please.
Report of City Services Committee, January the 17th. We recommend that council authorize the mayor to sign liquor permit application for Cambridge Main Street.
Any questions of the committee on that report? Next, please.
Report of committee as a whole, January the 17th. We recommend that council adopt legislation to place a 3.2 mil EMS levy on the May ballot.
Any questions of the committee on that report? Okay, we'll move on to unfinished business. Is there anything under unfinished business? If not, we'll move to the audience portion. Is there anybody within the audience that wishes to come before council and speak? Okay, we'll move on to new business. Anything under new business? Moving right along. Ordinances and resolutions.
A resolution declaring the necessity to levy a tax in excess of the 10 mil limitation.
So for first reading, or
Oh, no, it has to go tonight.
that's what I thought. Mr. Vancho. Motion to suspend. Mr. Wolverton.
I'll second that motion.
Yeah, roll call on the suspension, please.
Zaleski?
Yes.
McMillan?
Yes.
Hill?
Yes.
Wolverton?
Yes.
Evancho?
Yes.
Loffman?
Yes.
Leonard?
Yes.
Mr. Zaleski,
Motion to approve.
Mr. Leonard.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Leonard?
Yes.
Loffman?
Yes.
Evancho?
Yes.
Wolverton?
Yes.
Hill?
Yes.
McMillan?
Yes.
Zaleski?
Yes.
And that ordinance is declared adopted. Next, please.
A resolution authorizing the city auditor to make advance draws for 2023.
Mr. Loffman,
Motion to suspend.
Ms. Hill,
Second to suspend.
roll call on suspension, please.
Hill?
Yes.
Leonard?
Yes.
Zaleski?
Yes.
Evancho?
Yes.
Loffman?
Yes.
Wolverton?
Yes.
McMillan?
Yes.
Mr. McMillan,
Pass.
Mr. Loffman,
Second to pass.
any discussion? Roll call, please.
Zaleski?
Yes.
McMillan?
Yes.
Loffman? Evancho?
Yes.
Wolverton?
Yes.
Hill?
Yes.
Leonard?
Yes.
And that ordinance is declared adopted. Next, please.
An ordinance authorizing the administration to advertise for bids and enter into contract for the 2023 continuous street improvement projects.
Mr. Evancho,
Motion to suspend.
Mr. Wolverton,
Second to suspend.
roll call on the suspension, please.
Evancho?
Yes.
McMillan?
Yes.
Hill?
Yes.
Wolverton?
Yes.
Leonard?
Yes.
Loffman?
Yes.
Zaleski?
Yes.
Ms. McMillan,
Motion to pass.
Ms. Hill,
Second to pass.
any discussion? Roll call, please.
Loffman?
Yes.
Zaleski?
Yes.
Wolverton?
Yes.
Leonard?
Yes.
Evancho?
Yes.
McMillan?
Yes.
Hill?
Yes.
And that ordinance is declared adopted. Next, please.
An ordinance of transfers and appropriations.
Mr. Loffman,
Motion to suspend.
Mr. Evancho,
Second the motion.
roll call, please.
Wolverton?
Yes.
Loffman?
Yes.
Evancho?
Yes.
Zaleski?
Yes.
Leonard?
Yes.
Hill?
Yes.
McMillan?
Yes.
Mr. Leonard,
Motion to pass.
Mr. Wolverton,
Second to pass.
any discussion? Roll call, please.
Hill?
Yes.
Loffman?
Yes.
Wolverton?
Yes.
Zaleski?
Yes.
Evancho?
Yes.
McMillan?
Yes.
Leonard?
Yes.
And that ordinance is declared adopted. Next,
And-
please.
An ordinance establishing park seasonal employee pay rates.
Mr. Mr. Wolverton,
Motion to suspend.
Mr. Evancho,
Second that motion.
roll call on suspension, please.
Leonard?
Yes.
Loffman?
Yes.
Zaleski?
Yes.
McMillan?
Yes.
Hill?
Yes.
Evancho?
Yes.
Wolverton?
Yes.
Mr. Loffman,
Motion to pass.
Ms. Hill,
Second to pass.
any discussion? Roll call, please.
Evancho?
Yes.
McMillan?
Yes.
Leonard?
Yes.
Zaleski?
Yes.
Hill?
Yes.
Wolverton?
Yes.
Loffman?
Yes.
That ordinance is declared adopted. Next, please.
An ordinance authorizing the mayor to sign liquor permit applications for Cambridge Main Street.
Mr. Leonard,
Motion to suspend.
Mr. Wolverton,
Second to suspend.
roll call on the suspension, please.
Evancho.
Yes.
Laufman.
Yes.
McMillan.
Yes.
Hill.
Yes.
Zaleski.
Yes.
Leonard.
Yes.
Wolverton.
Yes.
Mr. Zalisky
Motion to pass?
and Ms. McMillan,
Second to pass?
any discussion? Roll call, please.
Wolverton.
Yes.
Leonard.
Yes.
Hill.
Yes.
Zaleski.
Yes.
Laufman.
Yes.
McMillan.
Yes.
Evancho.
Yes.
And that ordinance is declared adopted. Next, please. Oh, I guess we've done.
That's it.
Miscellaneous. Mr. Rancho.
Yes, the Finance Committee will meet actually in 2 weeks, since next week would be the fifth Monday. So we will meet February the 7th at 4:30.
Yes,
Just a reminder to the council, I sent it to you late today, so you may not have seen it before you came tonight, but we do have a special session that was issued for this Thursday at 4:30, per the requirements of the Board of Elections and the county. In order to get the EMS levy on the ballot for May, it's a two-step process. So we have to finalize step 2 on Thursday evening at 4:30.
yeah, I just want to take a few minutes here. We've lost a prominent rather, member of our community, and Bill Ross, just over the weekend passed away. I guess his services were today. If you didn't know Bill, he was 94 years old, veteran of World War II and Korean War. Recently got to go to Washington D.C. on one of the flights for the veterans. But a heck of a man. I learned some things in going to to calling hours. I didn't know that he's quite the woodworker and carver. But some of the stuff he did was fantastic. I went to First United Methodist Church with him for years, and it was always fun to see him there. And also, every sporting event that you can imagine in Cambridge, the guy was there. And Bill's going to be missed. He's Barry Ross's dad, if those of you who don't know. So Bill will definitely be missed, but I wanted to mention his name. Yes.
I'd also like to offer our condolences to the family of Joe Stevenson, who passed away at the age of 102, who was the founder of Feed My People here in town, which is a still ongoing vital ministry that is utilized very much so in this town. And God bless his family, and his wife, I believe, is still active in that ministry at the Lutheran Church. And what a great man he was. He was kind of quiet and behind the scenes a lot of times, but he did a lot for this community that people aren't aware of. But that's his biggest accomplishment, and I'm grateful for him in that.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay, Mr. Leonard.
I'll make a motion, we adjourn.
We're adjourned.
Yeah, he was, like I said, a lot of times he was kind of kind of be.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
He was a hoot.
I
He was
know.
kind of behind the scenes sometimes, but